Today's lesson is that we're going to graph inequalities. So when we are graphing these, we solve just like we solve equations. So if it's an addition, we subtract from both sides. If it's subtraction, we add to both sides, those kind of things. The only difference is now that once we get our answer, we're going to graph our solution on a number line. Important things to remember when we get into the graphing portion of this is that if it is less than or greater than, we have an open circle. And this will make a little bit more sense once we go ahead and actually graph them. If I have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, so or equal to is the little one with the line under it, we have a closed circle. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first problem. So our first problem here is x plus 7 is less than or equal to 9. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to solve this just like we would an equation. So again, I want to show my work to both sides. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. I'm going to get x is less than or equal to 2. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put these on a number line. For me, I don't care how many numbers or whatever you put on your number line, but you need to at least label one number so I know that you're putting them in the proper place. If you don't put an A number on your number line, then I have no idea that you know where it's going. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to graph this. So I'm going to go to 2 on my number line and I'm going to put a circle. Because it's or equal to, I'm going to have a closed circle, which just means that it's a filled in circle on my number line. Now, I want to think of where all my numbers are less than 2. Well, all the numbers that are less than 2 are to the left of 2. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my arrow. I could also have picked a number and see if it made it true. So for example, maybe I picked the number 0. Is 0 less than 2? Yes, absolutely, so I want to cover that number. If I pick something greater than 2, like 4, 4 is not less than 2, so I don't want to cover that number, so I know that my arrow goes in the opposite direction. Here's another one. If I have x minus 3 is greater than negative 6, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I'm going to get x is greater than negative 3. Again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to graph. This time, I'm going to have an open circle at negative 3 because it's not or equal to. By open, I just mean that it's not filled in. I want to see, well, where are all my numbers greater than negative 3, and that's going to be to the right. Again, you could pick a number. If I picked 0, for example, which is to the right, it would make it true, so I'd want to cover that number. Some of you might be noticing that your arrow points the same way that your inequality symbol does. That only happens when your variable is by itself and your variable is listed on the left-hand side. Had it been listed on the other side, then your arrow would be going the opposite direction. Okay, the next thing that you do is you want to make sure that you're being very careful. And the reason you want to be very careful is because when you flip or when you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality symbol. So it doesn't change if it's greater than or equal to or not, the equal to part. It just switches the direction. So if it was less than, it now becomes greater than. If it was greater than, it becomes less than. And this is only when the number with the variable is negative. So, for example, if we have negative 2x is less than 16. I want to go ahead, I want to divide both sides by negative 2. I'm going to get that x, again, I'm flipping my inequality symbol, is greater than negative 8. I can go ahead and I can graph this. So, what kind of circle am I supposed to have here? It's going to be an open circle because it's not or equal to, and I want all the numbers where x is greater than negative 8. All the numbers where it's greater than are to the right. Here's another example. If I have x divided by 7 is greater than or equal to negative 2. I want to go ahead and I want to solve this. So I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 7. When I do that, I'm going to get that x is greater than or equal to negative 14. Notice I didn't flip my inequality symbol here. Even though the 2 was negative, the number with the variable was not negative. So I don't have to flip it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to graph. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my circle. I'm going to have a closed circle this time because of the or equal to, which just means that it's filled in. And I'm going to say is my arrow to the right or the left. So again, I want everything bigger than negative 14, which would be to the right. All right, so the next ones that we're going to do are going to be multi-step inequalities. And again, we could do these. So let's see. So if I have something like 2x minus 1 is greater than or equal to 9. So again, I want to get x by itself. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I'm going to get that 2x is greater than or equal to 10. I want to divide both sides by 2. If I do that, I'm going to get x is greater than or equal to 5. We want to go ahead and we want to graph this on our number line. So I'm going to have a closed circle, again, because it's or equal to, and I want to say x is greater than 5. It's always greater than on the right. My next one like this, we're going to have that 2 is greater than negative x plus 3. Again, I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract off 3 from both sides. I'm going to get that negative 1 is greater than negative x. I'm not done yet. I have x, but I have negative x. So again, I want to divide both sides by negative 1. Remember, when you divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality. So now we can go ahead and we can graph this. So I'm going to say, what kind of circle am I going to have at 1? This time I'm going to have an open circle at 1 because it's not or equal to. Now, remember, if you're using a little shortcut about the arrows, this time the x is on the right-hand side. Again, this is still saying that x is greater than 1. If it helps you to rewrite that as x is greater than 1, then go ahead and do that. So, which way should my arrow be going? Again, this one should be going to the right. We've had lots of them going to the right on this one. All right, the last thing that they're going to have you do is they're going to have you write an inequality. And so when they're going to have you write an inequality, they are going to give you a graph. And they want you to give them the inequality. So, for example, if we have this, they're going to say, write the inequality of this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put my x, and I'm going to put whatever number my dot is at. And it's at 7. I'm going to then check to see if I should have the line underneath it or not. And I shouldn't on this one because it's not a filled in circle. So I know that it's either going to be greater than or less than. So now I want to look at and see where my arrow is. And in this situation, I have things like 6, 5, 4. Those are the numbers that are covered. So the numbers to the left of 7 are less than 7. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in here. So I'm going to say that x is less than 7. Here's another one. If I have something, let's see, we'll do 0, 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let's say that I have this. And I want to write the inequality of this. So I'm going to put my x again and switch colors. My dot is at negative 2. I'm going to say, okay, well, am I going to be an or equal to or not or equal to? This time it is an or equal to because it's a filled in circle. And I'm going to say, am I covering the numbers that are bigger than negative 2 or the numbers that are less than negative 2? In this situation, I'm covering the numbers that are greater than negative 2. So my inequality is that x is greater than or equal to negative 2.